Okay, now for part 4 of this series, we're going to be looking at articulation and phrasing variations. Now really, what this boils down to is how we sound the notes and where we place them in our solos. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a little phrase, as usual, and permutate it with these concepts so that you can have an idea of how it sounds in real life. We take a simple minor pentatonic phrase, A minor pentatonic. We can have this. Absolutely riveting, I'm sure you'll agree. This is subscribing to the notion of a binary placement of notes. If you imagine playing a phrase into a MIDI keyboard on a guitar setting, that would be the sort of result you come up with. It'd be very mechanical, very much binary. The note is either on or off. There's no variation, no phrasing, no interest. It's like talking in a monotone. There's nothing to attract our attention. So, what we can do to get out of that is start to inject some guitaristic traits into it. That's why a lot of MIDI programmers, if they're trying to simulate a guitar, they'll add little slides and fret noise and so on, all the little inconsistencies that are a pain for a keyboard to track, but are actually really easy for us to play. So, let's try that. Let's now add a lot more slides and hammer-ons and pull-offs into this same phrase to see how we can make it sound a bit more interesting. Okay, one more time, a bit slower. So what we're going to do now is introduce the right hand variations, and we're going to keep a 16th note funk pattern going on. So we'll just keep that 16th note going on here. So you'll hear the occasional interjection between the notes, and it should come up with something like this. The nice thing with doing it that way is that you get some inconsistency. As you're hitting all the notes, some notes are going to pop out more than others because of the sheer velocity of the stroke. And that gives it a much more human, organic feature, which I really like. It's great if you're trying to play a blues solo or in a funk band or something. It's a really nice way to inject a little life into it. We can then experiment with where our pick is in the equation. Typically, we tend to have the pick round about a 45-degree angle to the string, which is great because that very sort of scratchy Paul Gilbert sort of sound to it. It's great for playing funk, so it's quite aggressive. It gives you a lot of treble to the sound. However, if we put the pick flat onto the string, we're going to get a very warm and round sound. We're allowing the string to sustain and resonate at its full amount. We're hitting the string with as much of the pick as we can. Again, this is something that Steve Morse, for instance, that's his sort of picking angle, and gives him very full sound. And so it's quite a nice way because you're very almost a classical response to the guitar. And that's increased if we move the pick up near the neck. That's where, when we hit the string is resonating more than it would near the bridge. If we wanted to increase that even more, we could do what Robin Ford and Pat Metheny often do, and they pick with the sort of rounded side of the pick rather than the pointy end, which gives us a very mellow, to contrast with the sharp end. So that's ways of creating a mellower sound. This is, by the way, using the neck single chord pickup anyway, so it's a fairly mellow sound anyway. If you wanted to hear how it can really be changed, we can pick near the bridge. By picking near the bridge, the string has no room to resonate, so we're getting a very, very thin nasal sound. Almost sounds like a koto string instrument. And this is what we're getting. We're picking flat onto the string right by the bridge. Very sort of, if you added a fuzz pedal and maybe a ring modulator to it as well, you'd sound very much like John Scofield's by picking like that. And we haven't changed anything on the guitar, we've just changed where we're picking on the string, which is quite nice. That's value for money. What we can also do is vary which pickup works you're going to use. We can vary the volume control. I'll go down to the bridge pickup here for the max. If we change the volume control, we're going to change the amount of the original guitar signal that gets to the amp. So what ends up happening, especially using a lot of distortion, it doesn't so much make the guitar sound quieter, it just reduces the amount of distortion in the signal. You get a mellower sound anyway, and it's a nice effect. Someone like Richie Kotzen, for instance, will play an entire gig purely on overdrive and moderate the sound using the volume control. Very musical, old school way of doing it, which I highly recommend if you haven't tried it before. To give you an idea, on the bridge position, we can have this sort of sound. Okay, now I haven't changed anything, I haven't put any pedals in, purely going from volume at about 5 to 10. It changes the sound dramatically. And this is just on a normal Squire Strat into, I must confess, a Roland Cube digital amp. So it's not even as if I'm exploiting boutique hand-wired tube amplifiers, which react more strongly to that manipulation of volume control. This is using some very basic equipment, and you can create huge dynamic contrast just by controlling the volume of the guitar. Of course, we can go over to the dusty control on the guitar, the tone control, the one that no one ever seems to play around with. What we can do is, if we have it wide open at 10, of course we get full harmonics, we get as much treble as we want. As we lower the tone control, that's almost sort of Eric Johnson type quality. Which is quite nice because it's just taking away slightly the abrasive quality of a guitar, especially a Strat. It can take away the edge a bit. People don't really play around with that, but try with your normal sound, just with the tone control about 8. It just takes the edge off a bit. It's quite nice. If we took the draw down to 0, we're going to get this, and this is on the bridge position on the Strat. Now, that's using the same distorted sound I was using earlier. Okay, you can pretty much go from Michael Schenker to Wes Montgomery, as long as you're not too picky about how you sound like Wes Montgomery, but still, tremendous tonal variation there. So really, we've got several different instruments within one guitar, and it's really worth experimenting with that as much as possible. One thing we can also do is change we could country and western it by doing a lot of string bending. That's a nice way to change the phrase on it. So for instance, there we're doing pre-bend, and we're sustaining the bend at the end, going. We could also take that a bit further and sound a bit like Bill Frisell and sustain as many of the notes as possible. So we're going to change the position now into the 4th position of the minor pentatonic. And we're also going to introduce harmonics, natural harmonics, and open strings, so we can sustain as many of them at once. So we get this. So once again, a very quick tour of some of the variations that we can apply to our solos. Just a way of saving us from having to buy yet more equipment. We can vary the stuff we have and create a lot of interest for the listener. So as usual, I hope you've enjoyed watching. Please let me know how you get on with the concepts, and thank you for watching.